June sat in the quiet darkness of the archive. The soft blue glow of his data screen was the only light. Around him, rows and rows of crystal storage disks held the history of the Galactic Concord. His job was simple. He looked at old sensor logs and sorted them. It was boring work. Most people thought so. His fingers moved across the screen. Star maps, energy readings, and old reports flickered past. He was looking for patterns in comet tails. That was his official task. But his mind was elsewhere. It was always elsewhere. He was thinking about the old stories. The stories every child in the Concord heard but no adult believed. The stories of the quiet ones. The humans. The myth said they had walked among the stars over 20,000 years ago. Then they vanished. They left behind a few broken ruins on dead moons. They left behind one legend. A legend of a single ship. The Phantom. It was said to appear sometimes in the deep, empty spaces between stars. A silent, ghostly thing that never answered hails. It would watch and then it would fade away. Most people thought it was just a story to tell at night. A fun myth. June's grandfather had not thought it was a myth. He had been a deep space scout. He would tell June tales of strange, quiet signals, of a feeling of being watched by something ancient and kind. June had loved those stories. They were why he became a xenohistorian. He wanted to find proof. He had found none. Until tonight. His current log was from a deep-range listening post at the edge of Concord space. It was a boring place. Nothing ever happened there. The log was a year old. He was about to mark it as empty and move on when a tiny anomaly caught his eye. Energy spike. It was brief. So brief the automated system had classified it as a sensor ghost. A glitch. But the signature. June leaned closer. He called up the file on mythical energy profiles. It was a silly thing to have, his supervisor said. A waste of space. He scrolled. And there it was. Profile M7. Phantom class resonant echo. The description matched stories from 3,000 years ago. The energy pattern was identical. His breath caught in his throat. His heart beat loudly in his ears. This was it. The spike was from 6 months ago. In the Lyra Nebula void. A place with nothing in it. Hands trembling, he dug deeper. He cross-referenced. He found another sensor ghost from 2 years prior, near the failing world of Kala. Another from 4 years ago near the Helen Belt. All in empty space. All the same signature. All ignored. The Phantom was real. And it had been here. Recently. He worked through the night, forgetting sleep. He plotted the points on a star map. They seemed random, but as the map filled, a faint, slow path emerged. A wandering route. It was heading inward. Toward the core systems. The artificial morning light began to glow in the ceiling of Suyang City. June had it. Prediction. Based on the slow drift of the points, the Phantom might be nearing the Jaren system. A system with a single, struggling agricultural colony. A colony, report said, was suffering a strange soil blight. A cold, thrilling understanding washed over him. The Phantom wasn't just wandering. It was going to places in trouble. Quietly. He saved everything to a private crystal. He needed to tell someone. He went to see his mentor, Dr. Park. Dr. Park's office was warm and smelled of old paper. The older man listened quietly as June talked, his excitement spilling out. June showed him the data, the map, the prediction. Dr. Park did not smile. His kind face grew serious. He looked at the data for a long time. Finally, he spoke. His voice was low. This is very good work, June. It is also very dangerous. Dangerous? This is the greatest discovery in history, June said. It is, Dr. Park agreed. And that is why the Trade Guild will not allow it. The Trade Guild. The real power in the Concord. They controlled commerce, travel, information. They liked things calm, predictable. Myths were fine as stories. But a real, powerful, unknown ship? A ship that acted outside of guild control? That was a threat. What do you mean? June asked. The guild monitors all Phantom research. They have for centuries. They call it myth management. If this gets out, people will ask questions. They will look to the Phantom, not the Guild, for hope. The Guild cannot have that. They will say it is a hoax. Or worse, they will call it an enemy and try to destroy it. Dr. Park pushed the crystal back toward June. You must delete this. Forget you saw it. For your own safety. June felt a heavy disappointment settle in his stomach. He had found the truth, and the first thing he was told was to hide it. He left Dr. Park's office, the crystal burning a hole in his pocket. He walked through the bustling morning streets of Suyang. People hurried to work. Flyers zipped by. Life was normal. But June knew something no one else did. A silent guardian was moving among them. A myth was real. He couldn't delete it. He couldn't forget. He went back to his small apartment. He looked at the star map on his screen. The next predicted location. The Jaren system. He knew what he had to do. He couldn't do it alone. He needed help. He needed someone who could look at signals, who could keep a secret, and who wasn't afraid of the Guild. He thought of one person. Mina. A friend from his studies. She was brilliant, stubborn, and in need of money. Maybe that combination would make her listen. He sat down at his console. His fingers hesitated over the keys. Sending this message was a point of no return. Once he stepped onto this path, he could not step back. He took a deep breath. He typed a message. Mina. I need your help. It's about the Phantom. I found it. He hit send. The silence in his room felt deeper now. The quiet of 20,000 years was about to break, and he was the one who had to speak first. Mina stared at the message on her screen. The glow lit up her tired face. She was in her small apartment, surrounded by half-finished circuit boards and debt notices. The message was from June. She hadn't seen him in months. They had studied xenohistory together, but she had dropped out. Theory didn't pay the bills. Her family needed real money. I found it. She almost deleted it. The Phantom? That was a children's story. A distraction. She had real problems. The medical debt from her mother's illness was a crushing weight. Her freelance signal analysis work was inconsistent. She needed a big job, a guild contract, not ghost stories. But something in the message made her pause. June was not a liar. He was obsessive, yes, a dreamer, but he was honest. And he sounded sure. With a sigh, she typed a reply. Found what, exactly? Proof your grandfather's stories were true? I need credits, June, not myths. The reply came back fast. I have proof. Sensor logs. Pattern. Is heading toward the Jaren colony. The blight there. I think it's going to help. I need you to look at the signal data. Please. Jaren. Mina had seen a news snippet about that. A farming colony facing collapse. A strange blight was killing their main crop. The guild was sending aid, but it was slow. People were worried. Her analyst's mind ticked. Pattern. Proof. If it was real and she could verify it, that kind of discovery could be worth more than a guild contract. Could be worth a fortune. Or it could get them both thrown into a detention block. Curiosity and desperation fought inside her. Desperation won. She needed an angle. If this was a hoax, she would walk away. If it was real, she had to know. Send me the raw data. No interpretations. Just the logs. I'll look. For 1 hour. Then I bill you for my time. She sent her standard rate. It was high. She expected him to protest. His response was immediate. A data packet arrived, and a transfer of credits to her account. The full amount. She blinked. He was serious, and he had savings she didn't know about. Now she was committed. She opened the packet. She pushed her own work aside and plugged into her proper analysis deck. The screen filled with complex wave patterns and spectral readings. She started with the first log, the one from the Lyra Nebula Void. At first glance, it looked like nothing. Noise. But June was right about the signature. It was buried, but it was there. A resonance pattern that didn't match any known engine or natural phenomenon. It was clean. Too perfect. She pulled up public archives, searching for similar echoes near worlds with documented crises. She lost track of time. The 1 hour passed, then 2. Her debt notices were forgotten. This was a puzzle, and Mina loved puzzles. She found it. Not just one or two, but a dozen faint echoes over the last 50 years. Each one was in empty space near a system that had later reported a mysterious recovery. The water purification failure on Tarno Prime that inexplicably fixed itself. The stabilizing of Helen 3's erratic core. The end of the Great Sand Flu on Morrow. Every event had been a quiet miracle, unexplained by guild science. And every event had a tiny, almost invisible phantom echo in the area just before it happened. She leaned back, her hands cold. It wasn't a warship. It wasn't an explorer. The data painted a different picture. It was a gardener, a silent fixer of broken things. It did something small and precise, and it left. No contact. No demands. No thanks. June's theory was right. It was going to Jaren to help with the blight. Her communicator buzzed. It was June. Well? He asked, his voice tense. It's real, Mina said, her own voice quiet with awe. You're right. The pattern is there. It's a response ship. A non-interventionist first responder. We have to go there, June said. We have to see it.
Minas practicalment kicked.
The starport was a symphony of noise and motion that did nothing to calm June's nerves. He stood with Mina near a nondescript service gate, trying to look like they belonged. Her analysis kit was slung over her shoulder. He carried a small bag with his data crystals and some clothes. They were waiting for Captain Lee. June's idea was a gamble. Captain Lee was an old friend of his father's, a veteran pilot now flying routine patrols for the Concorde. He was a man of strict rules, but June remembered his father saying Lee had a good heart. June had sent him a cautious, coded message, asking for a meeting on a private channel. Lee had agreed, but his reply was short. It gave no hint of his thoughts. A side door hissed open. A man in a crisp Concorde uniform stepped out. He was older, with sharp eyes and short gray hair. Captain Lee. He looked at them, then at the bustling port behind them. Follow me, quickly, he said. His voice was low and firm. He led them through the service door into a narrow, quiet corridor. It led to a private docking bay. Inside sat a small, sleek ship. It was a Concorde patrol courier, fast and equipped with good sensors. The name on its side read Swift Witness. Lee turned to face them. He didn't invite them onto the ship. Your message was vague, June, but I knew your father. He was a good man. He said you had your head in the stars, but your feet on the ground. Tell me why I should not report you right now for suspicious activity. You asked about travel codes to the Jaren system. That is a restricted zone. June took a deep breath. He pulled out his data crystal. Sir, we have evidence of the Phantom ship. It's real. And we believe it is on course to arrive at Jaren Colony within the next 48 hours. Captain Lee's expression did not change. The Phantom. Affari tale. It is not, sir, Mina spoke up. Her voice was clear, professional. She handed Lee her own pad, displaying the signal correlations. These are sensor ghosts from the last 50 years. Each one occurred within a specific distance of a world experiencing a silent, systemic crisis. After each event, the crisis resolved. Not by guild intervention, but by an unknown, subtle agency. The energy signature matches the mythical profile. The statistical probability of this being coincidence is 0. Lee took the pad. His eyes scanned the data. He was a pilot, but he understood sensor logs and patterns. He looked at the list. Tarno Prime, Helen 3, Morrow. He knew these names. He had even been to Morrow after the sand flu vanished. The medical teams had been confused. They called it a miracle. His stern face softened, just a little. He looked from the data to June's hopeful face, to Mina's determined one. Why Jaren? He asked. The blight, June said. It's a perfect match. A silent, spreading problem. No clear cause. The guild's aid is struggling. The pattern predicts the Phantom will appear nearby. Lee handed the pad back. He looked at his ship, then at the service door. He was a man of duty. His duty was to the Concorde to maintain order. But what was order for if not to protect people? The guild's orders for Jaren were quarantine and controlled aid. But if this thing could truly help the trade guild, Lee said slowly. They know you have this? My mentor, Dr. Park, warned me they monitor all phantom research, June said. They want the myth to stay a myth. They buried my initial report. Lee nodded, as if this confirmed something he already suspected. He had seen the guild's heavy hand before. They valued stability over truth, control over miracles. He made a decision. Get on the ship, he said, turning toward the ramp. Bring your gear. We leave in 5 minutes. Relief flooded through June. Mina let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Inside, the Swift Witness was tidy and functional. Lee took the pilot's seat. His hands moved over the controls with practiced ease. I am filing a flight plan for a routine sensor calibration run in the nearby belt. That will give us a window. Once we are clear of Suyang's traffic control, I will change course for Jaren. The engines hummed to life. The docking clamps released. Through the viewport, the busy starport began to fall away. What happens when we get there? Mina asked, strapping herself in. We observe, Lee said. We watch, and we record. Your job is to get the clearest sensor reading in history. Proof that cannot be denied. He glanced back at June. And you, historian, you interpret what we see. The why matters as much as the what. The ship slipped into the streaming lanes of traffic, then broke away, heading into the dark. They had been flying for an hour when an alert chimed on Lee's console. His face grew tight. A guild fast cruiser is hailing us. Commissioner Tay's ship. He is demanding we state our final destination and return to Suyang for a cargo inspection. June's heart sank. They had been found out. Lee's jaw clenched. He looked at the star chart, then at the incoming hail. He reached not for the comms, but for the engine controls. Hold on, he said. He shut off the transponder. The ship's identifying signal vanished from the network. Then he pushed the engines to full power. The Swift Witness shot forward, veering off its filed course and diving into the dense radio shadow of a nearby gas giant. The comms crackled with a final, angry message from the guild cruiser. Captain Lee, you are in violation. Return immediately. Lee switched the comms off. The cabin was silent except for the hum of the engines. They were now fugitives, running into the dark toward a myth, with the most powerful organization in the galaxy on their trail. He looked back at his 2 young passengers. No turning back now, he said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were serious. The quiet is over. Let's hope what we find is worth the noise. The Swift Witness drifted in the silent dark, its engines cold. Before them hung the Jaren colony world, a pale green and brown marble. It looked peaceful from here. They were hiding in the shadow of its small, cratered moon. Their sensors were focused on the empty patch of space June's data had predicted. The inside of the ship was tense and quiet. Mina was a statue at the sensor station, her eyes fixed on her screens. June watched the main viewport, his hands clenched. Captain Lee monitored the passive scanners, watching for any sign of the guild cruiser. They had been waiting for 12 hours. Anything? June whispered, for what felt like the 100th time. Nothing but cosmic dust and regret, Mina muttered, but she didn't look away. Her professional pride was on the line. The data said it would be here. Lee pointed to a reading. The colony's distress calls are increasing. The blight is accelerating. Total crop failure is predicted in days. He looked at June. If your ghost is coming, it needs to come now. Just then, Mina stiffened. Energy spike. Her voice was a sharp breath. All eyes turned to her screen. It wasn't a dramatic explosion of light. It was a subtle ripple, like a stone dropped into a still pond of reality. The space before them shimmered, distorted, and then it was there. The phantom ship. It was nothing like the brutal, angular warships of the guild. It had no sharp edges, no obvious weapons. It was a thing of flowing, organic curves like a seashell or a folded leaf. Its surface was a deep, non-reflective gray that seemed to drink in the starlight. Soft, pulsing light glowed from within its structure, a gentle, steady rhythm. It was enormous, but it felt peaceful. It made no sound. It broadcast no signal. It simply existed. June felt tears sting his eyes. It was real. Every story, every myth, every lonely hope was true. He was looking at 20,000 years of quiet history. Recording everything, Mina said, her fingers flying. The energy signature is a perfect match. It's beautiful. No reaction to our presence, Lee noted, his pilot's mind analyzing. We are a mouse watching a mountain. It does not care. The phantom ship drifted closer to the colony world. It oriented itself, not with thrusters, but with a slow, graceful turn. A section of its smooth hull glowed brighter. What is it doing? June breathed out a soft, white light gathered at the ship's core. It wasn't a weapons charge. It was a gentle, swelling luminescence. Then, with a silent, breath-like release, the light expanded. It became a vast, shimmering cloud, like glowing pollen, and drifted slowly down toward the planet's atmosphere. A dispersal field, Mina said, reading her instruments, her voice full of awe. It's not a beam. It's a mist. I'm reading microscopic carriers. Billions of them. They're neutralizer organisms, keyed to the blight's genetic markers. They watched as the gentle cloud settled over the afflicted continent. On the surface, nothing dramatic would happen. No explosions, no chairs. In a day, the blight would stop spreading. In a week, new shoots would push through the soil. A silent, precise fix. The phantom ship's task was done. It began to turn away, its light pulsing softly. We have to hail it, June said, sudden urgency in his voice. We have to make contact. Lee shook his head. Every myth says it never answers. It is a rule of its being. But we have to try. June reached for the comms. Mina put a hand on his arm. June, look. On her screen, a new signal flashed. Incoming ships. 4 of them. Guild signatures. The fast cruiser and 3 attack drones. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Weapons already powered. Commissioner Tay's voice blasted over the open channel, shattering the silence. Unidentified vessel, you are in violation of Concord quarantine law. You will power down and submit to boarding. This is your only warning. The phantom ship did not change course. It did not speed up. It continued its slow, quiet turn, as if the angry warships were no more significant than asteroids. They're targeting it, Mina said, her voice tight. On the main screen, they saw the guild cruiser lock its weapons. Tay's voice came again, colder now. You ignore lawful command. You are declared a rogue entity. You will be disabled. Bright lances of energy shot from the cruiser. The bolts streaked across the dark and struck the phantom ship's hull. There was no explosion. No shield flare. The energy seemed to be absorbed, swallowed by the dark, smooth surface. The ship didn't even shudder. It simply kept turning. Another volley fired. Same result. The phantom ship was utterly untouched. It was so far beyond their technology that their attacks were like throwing pebbles at an ocean. Then the phantom acted, not with violence, pulsed. A single, deep, resonant wave of light expanded from it, washing over the guild ships. On the Swift Witness, their consoles flickered and went dead for a second before rebooting. An electromagnetic pulse, Lee said, checking his systems. A mild one. It reset their targeting systems. It didn't destroy them. It just told them to stop. The guild ships hung in space, disarmed and confused. The phantom ship completed its turn. The space around it began to ripple again, the same shimmer as before. It was preparing to leave. As the distortion field grew, it did something new. It sent out a single tight beam data packet. Not to the guild, not to the colony. It was directed at the Swift Witness. The packet hit their comms. Mina's screen lit up. It was a simple message. A star map, a single coordinate, deep in unexplored space. And one word, in a language that hadn't been spoken in 20 millennia, translated by their ship's computer. Remember. Then, the space where the phantom ship had been was empty. Only stars remained. The cabin was utterly silent. The guild ships were still drifting, their systems restarting. June looked at the word on the screen. Remember. He finally understood. It was never about making contact. It was about witnessing, about carrying the story forward. Captain Lee broke the silence, his voice full of a new respect. We need to go, now, before the guild recovers and decides to take their embarrassment out on us. He fired up the engines. The swift witness turned and shot away into the dark, leaving the silent miracle behind them. They carried the proof, and they carried a message, a single word that held the weight of millennia. The ride back to Suyang was a tense, silent race. Captain Lee pushed the swift witness to its limits, flying hidden paths through asteroid belts and nebulae to avoid guild patrols. June and Mina spent the time processing the data. They had crystal-clear recordings. The appearance, the gentle dispersal of aid, the guild's attack, the phantom's peaceful, overwhelming response. The final message, the star map and the word, remember. They knew they had to act before the guild could control the story. Commissioner Tay would be furious, his authority challenged in front of his own fleet. His first move would be to brand the Phantom a dangerous threat and label June, Mina, and Lee as dangerous fanatics. As soon as they slipped into Suyang's crowded traffic lanes, Lee made his move. He bypassed standard port control and used an old military override code. He docked the swift witness at a secure, private berth used by retired officers. We have one chance, Lee said, his face grim. We go public. All of it. Now. Mina worked fast. She edited the sensor footage into a short, clear narrative. The evidence of the Phantom's quiet help over the decades. The prediction. The journey. The stunning recording of the ship at Jaren. She included Tay's aggressive hails and the attack orders. She ended with the Phantom's single, nonviolent pulse and the data packet containing the star map and the word. June wrote the words to go with it. Simple words. He did not call it a weapon. He called it what it was, a caretaker, a silent gardener of the galaxy, working alone for 20,000 years. He asked one question. What kind of civilization have we become, that our first instinct is to shoot a healer? Lee used his remaining contacts. He sent the data packet not to the official news channels which the guild could pressure, but to 100 different sources at once. Independent pilots' forums, scientific networks, public archive servers. He set it to spread like a virus. Within an hour it was everywhere. Suyang, and then the whole Concord erupted in a silent digital uproar. The images were undeniable. The Phantom was not a ghost. It was real, and it was benevolent. People watched the guild cruiser fire on the peaceful, beautiful ship. They saw it do nothing in return but gently disarm them. The contrast was shocking. In a luxury guild tower, Commissioner Tay watched the same footage. His face was a stone mask, but his knuckles were white. He had lost the initiative. The narrative was slipping from his grasp. He called an emergency press conference. June, Mina, and Lee watched it on a small screen in the secure docking bay. Tay stood before the symbols of the guild. He looked calm, authoritative. Citizens, what you have seen is real, he began, surprising them. An unknown vessel did intervene at Jaren. We are grateful for the aid to the colony. He paused, his eyes sharp. But we must ask dangerous questions. Who built it? Why does it act in secret? What is its ultimate purpose? Relying on an unseen, unaccountable power is not stability. It is surrender. It makes us children, waiting for a parent to fix our problems. The guild believes in strength, in self-reliance. We cannot outsource our survival to a phantom. His words were clever. They twisted awe into fear, wonder into dependency. The individuals who released this footage, Tay continued, are reckless. They broke laws, endangered a colony, and inflamed tensions. They are in custody and will face justice. On the screen, a picture of June, Mina, and Lee appeared. Wanted for sedition. Lee quickly shut off the screen. He's lying. He doesn't have us. But he will soon. This birth won't stay secret for long. June felt a cold anger. Tay was using the very ideals of strength to condemn an act of pure compassion. He was scared of the Phantom because he couldn't control it. "We have to answer him," June said. "We have the rest of the data packet. The star map, the word. We have to tell people what it really means." "It's just a map and a word, June," Mina said, practical even now. "It's not a weapon to fight speeches with." "It's not a weapon," June said, an idea forming. "It's an invitation. Remember. What do we need to remember?" He looked at Lee. "Captain, you have full access to the historical archives, don't you? The restricted ones." Lee nodded slowly. "As a veteran, yes. We need to look up the coordinate on that star map. Right now." They used Lee's secure terminal. He input the Phantom's coordinates. The system churned. It was a very old, obscure location. Far beyond current Concord space, a file appeared. It was ancient, tagged with a security level so high it was almost mythical. Lee opened it. Was not a military secret. It was a historical record. A record of Earth. Not the Earth of legend, but the real Earth. The file showed the final centuries. It showed war.
Terrible, planet-scarring war.
It showed a civilization tearing itself apart in fear and greed. Then it showed the survivors making a choice. Not to conquer the stars. Not to build an empire. They chose penance. They built the Phantom ships. There had been more than one long ago, not as explorers or warriors, but as stewards. Their mission: to quietly repair the damage they found, to gently guide other species away from the cliffs their own people had fallen from. To never rule, never be worshipped, never interfere unless to prevent a silent collapse. To serve unseen until they were no longer needed. It was a 20,000-year apology. The file ended with the same word. Remember. Remember your past. Remember your mistakes. Remember that true strength is not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. True legacy is not in being feared, but in being a silent reason for hope. June understood everything. "He's wrong," he said softly, looking at where Tay's face had been on the screen. "The Phantom isn't making us children. It's reminding us how to grow up. It's showing us what we can become." He looked at Mina and Lee. "We send this too. We send all of it. The whole story. Not just the ship, but the why. Let the galaxy see what humanity chose to be." Outside, they could hear the distant whine of security sirens. The guild was closing in. But they had one more thing to broadcast. The truth not just of a ship, but of a soul. The sirens were close now. They could hear the heavy thump of boots in the corridor outside the docking bay. Commissioner Tay's security teams had found them. Time had run out. Captain Lee moved quickly. He locked the inner door to the bay, but it wouldn't hold for long. "They will be through in minutes," he said, his voice calm. He turned to his comms console. "But a minute is all we need." June handed him the final data crystal. Contained everything. The full history of Earth's choice. The truth of the Phantom's purpose. The meaning of remember. Mina had attached it to the original footage, creating a complete story. Lee's fingers flew across the console. He was using a veteran's emergency broadcast protocol. It was a one-time signal, unblockable, that would hijack every public and private feed in the Suyang system for 60 seconds. "Ready?" Lee asked. June and Mina nodded. There was no more fear, only a solid resolve. Lee pressed the key. Outside, across the entire planet, screens flickered. In homes, in offices, in public squares, the ongoing news about the Phantom fugitives cut out. Instead, a new transmission began. It started with the same beautiful, peaceful images of the Phantom ship at Jaren, helping without asking. Then June's voice spoke, clear and steady. "You have seen the ship. Now, let us show you the heart behind it." The footage changed. It showed the ancient records, the scorched earth, the terrible wars born from fear, the faces of the survivors, not triumphant, but filled with a deep, sorrowful determination. It showed the building of the first Phantom vessels. It explained their prime directive: stewardship, not sovereignty; aid, not authority; The narration explained, 20,000 years ago, humanity made a choice. We had failed ourselves. So we chose to spend millennia quietly helping others not make our mistakes. We chose to be gardeners in the dark, never taking credit, never seeking power. The phantom is not our master. It is our mirror. It shows us what we threw away. Compassion without condition. Help without strings. On the screen, the word remember filled the view. The broadcast ended just as the docking bay door shattered inward. Armed guild security officers poured into the room, weapons raised. Commissioner Tay himself walked in behind them, his face tight with controlled rage. "You are under arrest," he stated, his voice icy, "for theft of classified data, sedition, and endangering galactic stability." Captain Lee slowly raised his hands. June and Mina did the same. "You saw the truth, Commissioner," June said, not moving. "We all did. You can lock us up, but you can't unsee it." Tay's eyes flickered. He had seen the broadcast. Everyone had. For a moment, his certainty seemed to waver. But his lifetime of belief in control was strong. The truth is a luxury, boy. Stability requires strength. Your gardeners are a fantasy. The galaxy needs order, not fairy tales. He gestured for his officers to take them. But then, something unexpected happened. The officers hesitated. One, a young woman, looked from Tay's angry face to June's calm one. She did not lower her weapon, but she did not move forward either. The voice crackled over the security team's comms. It was the head of Suyang's own civil defense.
Commissioner Tai.
"Stand down. The Conciliary Council has ordered the release of the 3 individuals into their custody. Their broadcast is protected under historical revelation statutes."
Taes composure cracked.
"What? On whose authority?" "On the authority of public sentiment, Commissioner." The voice replied, weary but firm. "The feed is everywhere. People are gathering in the Starport Plaza. They are not protesting. They are quiet. They are asking questions. The council is listening. Stand down." Tay stood frozen. A man who built walls, suddenly finding the ground, had turned to water beneath him. The weapons of his own guards were now pointing at the floor. The moment of control had passed. June, Mina, and Lee lowered their hands. They were escorted out not by guild security, but by the city's own guards. They walked through the corridors and out into the main Starport Plaza. They stopped, stunned. The vast plaza was full of people, thousands of them, but it was not a loud, angry crowd. There was no shouting. People stood together, looking up at the giant screens which now replayed the images of the Phantom ship and the history of Earth. The silence was profound, thoughtful. It was the quiet of an idea taking root. An older woman in a scholar's robe approached them. She was a member of the Conciliary Council. She looked at them with serious eyes. "You have shaken the foundations," she said. "The guild's authority is challenged. But more importantly, our understanding of ourselves is challenged. We must decide what we value." She looked at the quiet crowd. "It seems many are deciding already." She turned to Tay, who had followed them out, looking lost. "Commissioner, the council is suspending the guild's executive authority over non-trade matters pending a full review. Your fear was noted. But today, the galaxy seems to choose a different path." Tay had no words. He simply turned and walked away, his figure small against the crowd. June looked at the faces around him. He saw wonder, curiosity, and a deep, reflective peace. He realized the Phantom's final gift was not just a lesson from the past. It was a choice for the future. The broadcast had ended, but the remembering had just begun. The 20,000-year quiet was over, replaced by something new. A conscious, galaxy-wide decision about what came next. And for the first time, it was a decision they would all make together. The quiet in the plaza lasted a long time. People did not rush to speak. They stood together, looking at the stars visible through the port's great dome, or at the screens now gone dark. The myth was real, and it had changed everything. In the weeks that followed, the change was slow but deep, like a thaw. The trade guild was not dismantled, but its power was checked. A new council was formed with voices from many worlds. They called it the Stewardship Council. Its first task was to study the data from the Phantom, not as a secret, but as an open lesson. June and Mina were asked to help. They were not punished. They were listened to. They worked in a new archive, built not to hide history, but to share it. The centerpiece was the complete library from the Phantom's data packet. The art, music, stories, and mistakes of ancient Earth. People came to see it. They saw the beauty and the horror, side by side. They saw the choice that was made. Captain Lee was offered his old rank back. He declined. He chose instead to captain a new ship, one that would follow the star map the Phantom had given. Its mission was not to find the Phantom, but to find the place it had pointed to. To see what was their point one evening, June and Mina walked through the gardens of the new archive. The air on Suyang was clean and cool. They stopped by a pool of water, watching the reflection of the first stars. "It's strange," Mina said. "For 20,000 years, they were quiet. They fixed things in secret. And now, because of what we did, they might never need to do it again." June nodded. He understood now. That was always the point. They weren't trying to be eternal guardians. They were trying to teach someone else how to be one. The quiet was the lesson. Now the lesson is over. We have to decide if we learned it. Mina looked at him. "Do you think we have?" He thought about the new council arguing not over weapons but over aid. He thought about the engineers working on new ships designed to help, not to fight. He thought about the crowds in the plaza, choosing reflection over anger. "We're trying," he said. That's all they ever did too. They just tried quietly, for a very long time. A soft chime came from Mina's pocket. It was a message from Captain Lee. His new ship, the Remembering, was ready to depart. He had a small crew. He wanted to know if they would come. They looked at each other. The work here on Suyang was important, but it was safe. The work out there, following the map, was an unknown. "My mother's debts are paid," Mina said quietly. "The medical guild reformed the rules. She's going to be okay." She took a breath. "I want to see where the map leads." June smiled. He felt the same pull. The job of a historian was not just to look at the past. It was to help guide the future. "Let's go," he said. A few days later, they stood on the observation deck of the Remembering. It was a simple, sturdy ship. Its purpose was engraved on a plaque by the airlock. To seek, to learn, to aid. Captain Lee greeted them with a firm handshake. His eyes had a light they didn't have before. "Welcome aboard," he said. "Our first coordinates are set." The ship lifted from the port. It rose through Suyang's atmosphere and into the deep black. June and Mina watched the planet shrink behind them, a blue-green gem against the dark. They entered the strange, silent realm of faster-than-light travel. Stars streaked past the viewport like lines of light. After some time, Lee called them to the bridge. They were approaching the coordinates from the Phantom's map. The ship dropped back into normal space. Before them was not a planet, or a star, or a mysterious alien structure. It was a garden, a vast, impossibly beautiful construction floating in the void. It was made of light and crystal and living green. There were trees and flowing water, all held in a bubble of gentle atmosphere. It was a place of perfect peace. And in the center, on a simple stone pedestal, there was a message, written in the same ancient script. The translation appeared on their screen. "This is not a home. It is a workshop, a place to learn how to mend a broken star, to calm a furious sun, to heal a sickened world. The tools are here. The instructions are here. We tended it for you. The rest of the galaxy is your garden now. Tend it well." It was a school, a gift. The final act of the Quiet Ones was to leave a place where others could learn to do what they had done. June felt a profound sense of completion. The Phantom hadn't just given them a history lesson. It had given them a future. Captain Lee let out a slow breath of wonder. "So," he said, his voice full of a quiet joy, "we begin." Mina was already reaching for her scanners, her eyes bright. "The data here, it's incredible. This could teach us to help 100 worlds like Jaren." June walked to the viewport. He looked at the floating garden. a gift left in the dark by a people who chose to be forgotten so that others might be remembered. The silence around him was no longer the quiet of absence. It was the quiet of a promise being kept. It was the quiet of growth that he did not know what they would find or what they would become. But for the first time in 20,000 years, the galaxy was not alone in the dark. It had a light, and it had a map, and it had a word to guide it: remember. The ship moved gently toward the garden, ready to begin its work.